Good evening, everyone. And as Charlotte says in the chat, happy Super Bowl Sunday. And I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. If you're uh, so inclined to do so, I don't think we're going to have a lot of people on the show tonight because they will be watching the Super Bowl. And actually, that's what I was doing before I came in here to the uh, studio to broadcast tonight's rendition of Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox, which is going to be an abbreviated, shortened version this evening because I intend to uh, watch the Super Bowl too. I do not know how much I'm going to miss of the dreaded halftime show with the entertainer Bad Bunny. So I mean, just some of these guys' names, even if the act's first name begins with bad, just saying it is what it is. But I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. Just put your name out there because we've got a few of you here, and so Alex didn't even know it was Super Bowl. Uh, and then James Colbert, he's here for the Larry Cox halftime show. And that's what it is. I'm competing against Turning Point's halftime show with Kid Rock and the Super Bowl halftime show with Bad Bunny. So, here I am, just me in little old Rockdale County. And then Alex, he didn't even know it was the Super Bowl. And, but yeah, that's the way we go. So today was Jersey Day at church. So I have my Colts, Peyton Manning jersey on today for showing my team spirit and pride today for the church with that. So that was interesting. But yeah. So again, let me thank you, William Campbell joining me. I'm sure he's come over from the halftime. He wasn't interested in watching Bad Bunny. So you got William Campbell, James Corbett, Alex McDonald, Cheryl Moulton, and Charlotte Gellert. And there are a few more people that are joined us live tonight too. And then we'll have people watch the broadcast later on, and people will go back and watch it. So I'm just going to do a little bit of talking tonight and just talked about a few things. They want to follow up on some property tax stuff. So the Senate, the Georgia State Senate, passed their property tax legislation this week, which is Senate Bill 382, what Senate Bill 382, it requires everyone to participate in House Bill 581, which Rockdale County already participates in and has given taxpayers a significant property tax relief. If you have a homestead, your property values of this year can only raise, you can only be, taxes can only be increased 2.7%, which is the rate of inflation. So, that's all that you can grow in Rockdale County if you have a homestead exemption. Now, business and rental properties and commercial, theirs can be higher, but all homestead properties can only raise at 2.7%, and that's it. But rental and all that can raise more, and then 382 also has a provision in it limiting counties from being able to place fees on property tax bills. So Charlotte, let's talk about that. Charlotte said she'd rather have another credit like in 23. Funny you mentioned that, Charlotte, because the House actually in their budget changed Governor Kemp's proposal where he was going to give everybody those rebates. The House changed the governor's budget proposal to actually give those homestead grants this year. So that is something. So this year, it looks like that the Georgia State Legislature is going to amend the budget, and instead of giving those tax rebates, they're going to actually go in the direction right now, it looks like, of those homestead credits. So just let's pay attention to that budget, because that's the budget proposal that came out of the House, and I'm sure that the Senate will, in some manner, agree with that, and that'll be some sort of probably compromise legislation, and I can see that happening. Uh, Welcome, Jesus Lopez, to the show. I was having a problem with your thing. So welcome to the show. Yeah, Corliss, that's what the House did to the budget proposal. They changed it to give uh, property tax credits instead of the income tax rebates. So, and I got a feeling that's going to stay that way. So that is good. So I am very pleased with that, and I think that's a good thing. And then also, just telling you, I don't think the property tax relief stuff is over. I think you're going to see a lot of more local legislation that's going to come down the pike to try to give some immediate relief to homeowners. And I think I think you're going to see an advertisement next week from a legislator that represents Rockdale County with local legislation. And I am familiar with what they're wanting to do, but I will not talk about it until next Sunday's show. Until after it runs. Now, the ad is supposed to run this week, is what I'm told. I will verify that it's going to happen. I was told it would be running this coming Friday, and then Alex McDonald and I are going to do a special show to actually discuss that piece of legislation and what it could possibly do to for property tax, people who pay property tax in Rockdale County. And this potential legislation, I think, has the possibility of impacting more than just homestead properties. And I think it would be a short-term stopgap just because of the nature of it. And I think we'll talk about it when that comes around. But I think this definitely would be the stopgap that we would need to be able to give some relief. There are 7 Corliss. They should have a bill that nothing other than there are actually 4 bills in the Georgia's legislature this year that would actually do that. 382 is one of them. That is the legislation that the Senate just passed about making everyone comply with the Homestead Exemption Act of 581. Charlotte, is there local legislation for the city? Well, that's very interesting. I think this local legislation that we're going to talk about Sunday could definitely impact the city. And then I'm going to tell you, I have suggested to local legislators and other legislators, I'm going to tell you what I have personally suggested. I have personally suggested that we increase the homestead exemption for seniors from 50,000 to 125,000 a year, and then also add a means test for seniors also. And then I believe, where that $15,000 homestead exemption is that everybody gets, I think that needs raised from 15K to 40K next year. So, I mean, that would be my recommendation to start with, because 581 just caps the growth. It doesn't do anything about giving you relief from the past increases. So what I think you need some relief. And then also, this is just point blank. We're going to have to shift some of that relief and get some of those monies back into the coffers. That's just a reality, whether people like it or not. Just going to be real. And I think the property tax increases that are going to have to come eventually to eliminate the sales tax, I think then that's eventually going to happen. But if we go to eliminate property taxes and they go to eliminate sales taxes, then I mean not sales taxes, but property taxes and income taxes, we're at a 9% cap of what can be deducted as far as for sales tax in this state. I think we're going to need 12 to 13 cents to be able to pay for everything they want to pay for. That's my opinion, right? So I think they're going to have to raise that cap from 9 cents to probably 13 cents to be able to pay for everything. Uh, to do that. Well, Charlotte, it would depend on what property evaluations are. So it so this is what it would happen. Like with the homestead, you're going to get an exemption that brings you that gives you an exempt enough to where you don't pay any more than 2.7% increase if you have a homestead. So um, it's a workaround where they're going to give you an exemption that you're not going to pay any more than 2.7. So and that's why that's why they call it a floating exemption, because you get an exemption that floats that makes sure that your taxes can't increase any more than 2.7%. And then you'll get a millage rate that'll go anywhere from 0 to 2.7. And Renee, I think you would say 11, but I don't think 11 is enough if they do the income tax. I think it'll be more like 13. I've ran some numbers, and we can talk about it sometime. But I think the 11, I think 10 cents, and it depends on where some counties are now, because some counties are already around 9, right? So the 11's not going to work, and I think that's why it's going to have to be a 13, because you've got other counties who are going to need a little more a few more pennies. So that, I think, when you look at the whole tax situation statewide, that's where I come up with the 13, because you already have counties that'll be maxed out, and that's going to be even before you add whatever they're going to do with income tax, because they are going to eventually do something with that too. So right now, property taxes on commercial and residential would, but you got to remember, Cheryl, you're going to have to you're going to have to raise that millage on them really significantly to do that, and not certain if we want to do that. So that's something we have to see what we need to do. But if Resolution 1114 with its accompanying act, House Bill 116, would pass, and it would eliminate all property tax, homestead property tax, and then cap the rate that commercial properties would gain to 3%, then the answer would be no. There's no way that the commercial properties would cover the loss. And if 114, 116 passes, your host and SPLOST would no longer exist the way they exist. They would be converted to those pennies to actually cover the money that you're going to lose from property taxes. So you actually end up losing those 2 pennies in the general scheme of things. So, and that's what, those pennies have not been calculated to be replaced. Those pennies would be used to replace homestead revenue, and then you'd lose that host and SPLOST revenue. So it's not a penny for penny thing the way you would think it is. You actually convert those pennies to homestead, and you end up losing your host and your SPLOST. So it's not a penny for penny, right? So that's why it is very interesting. But 14116 enables counties and Board of Educations and cities to do what they call assessments. And those assessments, which are different than fees, and I'll explain it, the assessments are excess levies. And what you would do, you would actually say, okay, I'm going to need to charge your property in excess of what it would normally be. And this would be the excess amount that I'm going to charge you. Let's say I'm going to levy $150, $200 extra every year on your property because of these projects I'm going to do. That's an excess levy. Now, the fees are, like I said last week, they define, stormwater, fire protection, police protection, uh, garbage, running a landfill. There are many different things they would describe as a fee. And that fee could just be added, not to your tax bill, because if these bills pass, they have provisions that these don't get attached to your tax bill. They would be levied separately. And why I think they won't succeed is because they don't have any teeth in collections. So, and that right there is, from what I've been told, the fees portion is responsible for recouping up to 3 million of what they say 5 million will be taken from property taxes statewide. And when you guys all remember when the stormwater fee was not added into the property thing here, I think 40% of the people didn't pay their stormwater fee. So I think it would be 40 to 50% that would not pay those fees of that 3 billion. So you'd end up, in my opinion, anywhere from a 1 billion to $1.5 billion shortfall from people not paying those fees. So I don't see the fees way as the way of doing this. But if people don't want to pay property taxes and they want those eliminated, then then it would have to be a shift to sales tax. And then the 9-cent cap we have right now will not do it. That's just reality. So there's what the options would be. Now, you as voters, I think at the end of the day would end up having the option to vote on this, because they'll have all this in the eventual. I don't know if this legislation passes. I don't think it passes this year. I think, but when it does get there, it'll be a ballot initiative, say, to eliminate property taxes. They'll phase out whatever. You will enact being able to increase the penny legislation. It'll all be in that resolution that you'll vote on whenever it does make its way through the legislature. And we'll find out what's going on with all that. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting when you look at this. And that's why I'm very intrigued about this year's legislative session, because I want to see what comes out of it. Because I do believe having additional property tax changes come out of this legislative session. I think your House and Senate will compromise, and you're going to have compromise tax legislation from both sides at some point. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I think 382, I think a version of 382 is going to pass this year, where the floating homestead, the 581, will, because 71% of school boards opted out. And that's why you've got a lot of this stuff happening right now. If you wouldn't have had, I think, all these school boards opt out, you wouldn't have had the Georgia House come back with a fury with this 1114-116, because this. I actually said it last year. If we have a mass opting out of this, the legislature will come back and punish local school board, cities, and counties for opting out. And I'm going to tell you what, 114-116 definitely does that. It punishes counties and cities. It says we offered you guys a life draft. You know what I mean? We offered you a flotation device. We offered you something to save you, and you didn't take it. And now you're going to pay the price. This is, I think, resolution 114, House Bill 116 is that we told you so legislation that hits hard and strikes hard. That's my take on that legislation. So that's what we got. Well, guys, I think that I've came on here long enough for this abbreviated rendition, talked a little bit about these property taxes, and just to let you know, so next week, I am told that legislation of property tax relief to to Rockdale County citizens in a different way. That the legal ad should run, and if that ad runs next week, we will be discussing that bill live next Sunday at 8 p.m. So, guys, thank you very much for joining me tonight on this Sunday's rendition of Speak Your Mind. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you next week. And there were many more people on here than I thought would be on here. Thank you for watching me. You may be watching uh, the Super Bowl show on the background, but thank you for at least tuning me on, Renee, and I appreciate your kind words also for that. But thank you, everybody, and I will see you next Sunday, 8 p.m. YouTube and Facebook, as we continue our conversation Rockdale County property taxes and many other things. Thank you and good night.